What's going on, guys? It's your Route 1 encounter, Yubari Eradicate. I didn't want to start the video off like that, but I don't know how to start videos. Anyway, so this is going to be the beginning of a new series that I think I'm going to call Yubari's Design Decks, where I'm going to be drawing every Pokemon because I'm stupid and I don't know when to not do things. Because I get an idea and I think that sounds cool, and then I'm like, why don't I just stick with that until I can't stick with it anymore? But basically what we're going to do in this series is, like I said, draw every Pokemon. But I'm going to start by drawing the Pokemon from memory, which is what you're seeing right now. And then I will draw the Pokemon with reference, and then talk about my history with the Pokemon and what I like about them and what I dislike about them. I'll probably try to do dislike first so that we can end on a positive note. Just something that I need to do more often in general. But so what you're seeing here now is where I'm drawing from memory. This went a lot worse than I thought it would, especially in rewatching, like, while I was editing the video together, because I recorded this in several chunks, which I'll get into also. But I noticed that I accidentally gave Bulbasaur little eyebrows, and I did not intend to give Bulbasaur little eyebrows. You can see right here I'm specifically trying to ignore it on Ivysaur, but you know. The other thing with this is that this is something I guess you guys can comment on if it matters to you. But I was kind of like, I started doing this and then I kind of decided that I'm just gonna do like a sketchy kind of like general idea, trying to remember like what they look like, but not do an entire drawing of from memory off the top of the dome, because like this took me way too long to get done, and I think if I want to do like 1,000 Pokemon, I should probably not draw like 2,000 full images. I think that might be a little much. So maybe I could like do the sketchy line work and then just, you know, turn the lines black and then do like a light color, like just a one tone color underneath to show that I know what the fuck they look like. But yeah, I guess let me know what you think about that, because like this is a thing where it matters, where what I'm coloring their ears, that actually does kind of matter for their design. So I don't know, it's kind of a Pokemon by Pokemon basis anyway. But I love the little stumpy feet that I gave Venusaur here. I think Venusaur probably came out the finest of these three. I think Venusaur might be the one I've seen the most of the three. I'm not sure. Oh no, that's not true. I probably have the most like familiarity with Ivysaur at this point. But oh god. So this was a thing where I did these little triangles with the open holes in the middle, and I'm like, yeah, it looks about right. And then when I went back to do it later, when I like with the reference, I realized that was not correct. And the reason it's not correct, and the reason I did that and thought it was correct, is because the Venusaur in the movie has little openings in its in the little splotches on its flower. But so now we're gonna get into the from reference drawing. This is weird. I don't know how to paste this. But anyway, so I guess I'll talk about my history with these Pokemon. So obviously, Gen 1, first 3 Pokemon. Oh, that's a thing I can mention too. Christ. So the reason I'm doing 3 Pokemon right now is because I figured, like, again, in the interest of saving some time somewhere during this, there was not really a need to do like 3 individual like 5-minute videos about each of these individual Pokemon, where it's like, for the starters, I think we might do starter groups together, and possibly things where it's like a 2-stage evolution. Like maybe I'll just do evolution groups together, because like Sandshrew and Sandslash, like we don't need a Sandshrew and Sandslash video unless you guys really want every single Pokemon individual. But I just thought that this would be the most like convenient way, and like, because you know, when you like, it would suck doing a Bulbasaur video and then not being able to say things about the other 2 because you need to save that for the next video, you know? So I thought it was better to just do all 3 of them together at once, since they are obviously related to each other. I do have a little factoid about that. I have a couple links open here. Um, let me see here. No, I think it's on this other one. Oh god, what's it called? Okay, so Atsuko Nishida was one of the designers on Gen 1. I'm actually not familiar with a lot of the Pokemon designers themselves. I know there's like there was one lady designer that was responsible for like a shit ton of Pokemon that I really really like a lot, and I remember seeing her and being like, "Yeah, good on you, lady. Thanks for that." But yeah, like Atsuko Nishida here is responsible for the Bulbasaur, Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard, Squirtle, Wartortle, Weedle, Kakuna, Beedrill, Pikachu, Raichu. Last design was Sylveon. Did like Musharna, Umbreon, Dragonair, a bunch of cool Pokemon. It's weird that this does not mention Venusaur though, because the Bulbapedia. I'm going off Bulbapedia because that's all I got to work with right now. Making this video has been a weird process, but it says that Atsuko Nishida designed Venusaur first and then worked backwards, which I believe because we talked in during our tier list, our starter tier list discussion video stream thing. We talked about designs that kind of lose their way halfway through, or that don't really inform the final evolutions of their lines. And this is a line that definitely like it holds together the entire way through. So we'll probably talk about that more once we see the other two. But to kind of explain the weird process with this and why the video itself might be a little stilted at times, is I got horribly sick last weekend, the weekend before recording this. And so I did the from memory drawings, and then I powered through and I did the line work and the preliminary and the line work for Bulbasaur here. And then I was like exhausted and I needed to lay down. So I went and napped for a while, and then like the next day I did the sketch and the line work for Ivysaur. Or no, I did the color for Bulbasaur later that day. Came back the next day and did the sketch and the line work for Ivysaur. And then also needed to lay down, and then I got distracted playing Sword and Shield. And then the next day I came back and did like the color for Ivysaur in like half an hour, and then went to bed again. And then like 3 days later today, I was having trouble getting a pose for Venusaur. And so today I finally just sat down. I was like, I'm just doing it, and I just did it. And so I was finally able to finish this whole weird process. But so yeah, hopefully the other ones won't take me a week and a half to finish each of them. But this one was a little bit spread out, so I had to kind of cobble the video chunks together and fast forward and cut out bits where like earlier when I was drawing Venusaur, I got distracted by a max raid battle, and so there was like 20 minutes where nothing was happening, and that was like still pretty lengthy in the speed up. So I had to cut all that shit out. So this will be my third time watching all of this after, recording all of this. But to talk about Bulbasaur's design here a little bit, because we're already halfway through Bulbasaur. The whole Bulbasaur evolutionary line is based on frogs. They are like little dinosaurs also. That's where the Saur comes from. Bulba being like, the plant part, and Saur being the lizard in Latin or whatever. I remember I had a book as a kid that was like, of the 3 starters, it was just like it had to have been off-brand. It couldn't have been like a real Pokemon Company released thing. Although they weren't as strict back then, I think. But I had a little book that was about the 3 starters, and for Bulbasaur, it was like, I think it was kids like imagining the Pokemon, because he found like a frog with like a plant stuck to it or something. So in my brain, it's always been like, yeah, Bulbasaur's a frog. But I guess there was a debate amongst fans for a while until Sugimori finally just came out and said, yeah, he's a fucking frog. Like, look at him. He's such a tough little dude. But so he was weird to me, because when I came back, when I started thinking about this project like months ago, like probably half a year ago or more. And so I was like, you know what, let me read up on Bulbasaur a little bit. Let me get prepared so that, whenever I finally get around to this, I'll have forgotten a little bit of it, so that like the from memory won't just be a one-to-one drawing, which it certainly was not. I guess I shouldn't have worried so much about that. But I was like, yeah, let me inform myself a little bit so that I can make a better video. So I spent some time staring at Bulbasaur because that's how I inform myself more than actually reading things. I just kind of look at the thing. So there won't be that many interesting factoids about the Pokemon throughout, probably for a lot of these. Nothing that you won't be able to find with a quick Google search, because that's probably all I'm gonna do. Because I'm more concerned about the Pokemon, like visually and stuff. But anyway, so yeah, it was weird to me realizing that Bulbasaur doesn't have ear holes. I guess I forget if somebody mentioned this, and I think Horndrill might have mentioned this in our video, the tier list video. But there was talk that those ears might not necessarily be ears, but glands, because frogs have like special glands, and frog skin is weird. I think there are frogs that breathe through their skin. I know there's that one frog that carries its eggs in its back and gives live birth through its skin. Frog skin is very fucking weird. And there are glands that secrete poison and just like gross liquids so that predators don't eat them and stuff like that. And being a grass poison type, the whole line, it stands to reason that those could be glands. But it's also probably just like we talked about before, how like adding features makes a creature look more. The more complex they are visually, the like older and stronger they can appear. Like you can convey age and like strength that way. And so by not having as many details on Bulbasaur, but having more details added to Ivysaur, it can kind of make Ivysaur look like a progressed version of that original creature. So that may be the whole reason why he doesn't have ear holes, is just because, again, they were designed backwards from Venusaur. So it was probably just like take Venusaur and remove details to make the baby versions, which is a really cool way. I feel like most Pokemon should be designed that way. I'm pretty sure that Blastoise was not designed that way. We'll get to Blastoise later on, but yeah, it seems like a good way to do things. Ivysaur is weird though here. I'm trying to think. I don't think I really have much else to say about Bulbasaur. So he's got his eyes have the white pupils, like instead of actual pupils. It's just like white there, which is weird. And then he's a little stumpy guy. He's got 3 toes on each of his 4 feet. Quadruped, doesn't really stand up. A little bulb on his back, no ear holes. That's Bulbasaur. Ivysaur here is it looks a little bit more mature, looks a little tougher. I always kind of equated, like, in Gen 1, there's a really solid theme of, like, the middle stage being, like, pissed and tough looking. Because, like, I always took Squirtle. So I always had Wartortle. And so I kind of equated the other two to Wartortle. Like, that was my point of reference. And so, yeah, Ivysaur just looked mean as shit. And so did Charmeleon, and so I'm like, damn, all these middle evolutions are like super nasty. But my brother always took Venusaur, always took Bulbasaur, and I always took Squirtle. And so, as kids, the way we kind of treated these games was like, he likes the red one, and I like the blue one, and then I like the water starter, and then he likes whatever he likes, whichever fire or grass. But whichever one the other kid picked, fuck that one. So I like Squirtle. That means that Bulbasaur sucks shit. Fuck Bulbasaur and Venusaur. That whole line's garbage because I picked the blue one and that's the green one. So fuck that one. And that's why I don't have much experience with these Pokemon until like recent years. Because the first time I actually picked Bulbasaur in a playthrough was I had a ROM on my phone for Moemon Fire Red, and I decided to pick Bulbasaur because I had never picked it before, and that was the first time I used Bulbasaur in the video game, and that was like 3 years ago, and I've been playing these games since I was a fetus, so yeah, but yeah, Ivysaur is strange because Ivysaur gets ear holes, which is cool, but they're black ear holes. They're like proper ear holes, I guess. But they're kind of like situated pointing out to the sides of its head, which is kind of bizarre, I guess. Whereas you'll see Venusaurs are kind of more front facing. And then the other thing is that, what was I going to say? Oh, it's got black pupils. It's got black pupils and black ear holes, whereas Venusaur goes back to having the white pupils, and it has like pink ear holes, like like ears. Maybe they're vents on the sides of Ivysaur's head because it's so mad all the time. It's so the steam can get out. Yeah, that's probably what it is. Yeah, I think that of the three, my Ivysaur kind of came out the worst. I like I kind of got what I was going for with it. I just think I just didn't execute it perfectly. And even looking at it later, I was like, I'm not completely happy with it, but like, I kind of just had to deal with it because it was too far to go back. And again, it was one of those things where it's like, I can't spend, a month trying to perfect this. It's like, that's what I drew. That's what I got to deal with. So, that's how it's going. My additional recent experience with Ivysaur is obviously from Smash Ultimate. Added Ivysaur back, and that was where I stared at Bulbasaur, looking at Bulbasaur for the video, and then I stared at Ivysaur because I was playing as Ivysaur in Smash because I really, really liked Ivysaur in Project M, and then I was really excited to have that whole Pokemon Trainer thing back for Smash Ultimate. And I like that Ivysaur is shaped like a little pillow. I think he looks like a little pillow pet, and I think it's adorable. And the other thing I noticed too with this is that the way the leaves go, because with Venusaur they kind of lay flat along its whole body, but Ivysaur kind of has like the one in front is turned upwards a little bit, which is what I tried to do here. I think I drew the leaves too short was a main thing, which I think I did on Venusaur as well, but I did it a little bit better in Venusaur. But like, yeah, the way their leaves sit is kind of awkward for me to draw because I've never drawn these Pokemon before. Like, I've drawn my whole life and I've played Pokemon my whole life, but I honestly have not drawn that many Pokemon. So that's part of what this series is too, is a little bit of me kind of, like these are things I should have already been doing my whole life. So, let's catch up and draw some Pokemons. Because I really only have drawn, I've drawn Mewtwo a whole bunch. And I've drawn Raticate a bit, but I still don't think my Raticate's... I can't draw Raticate from memory the way I can draw Mewtwo from memory. But those are the two I've probably drawn most of all Pokemon. So, in a couple episodes when we hit 19 and 20, that's going to be a real good one. I'm going to have lots to say about that one. I think I kind of messed up Ivysaur's eyes a little bit too, because they're a lot more angular. Gen 1 has those very angular, again, angry eyes. Like Voltorb kind of eyes, or Nidorino, Nidoqueen, or Nidoking rather, all have those kind of like jagged triangular angry eyes. I did them a little too round here. I don't know exactly, I don't know why I was struggling so much. Like, Bulbasaur's eyes are kind of weird. It's something about the way Pokemon original eyes, if you go look at Misty's eyes, or a lot of the Gen 1 anime female characters, they have those high arched, really thin, narrow eyes that are half ovals. And Bulbasaur's eyes are kind of like that. But something, I don't know what it is. I think it's because I've just drawn realistic eyes so much in my life that whenever I try to simplify things, I have a hard time with it. Which I had that issue when I did the Monkey Ball art stream, trying to not get too complicated with my coloring. And I sort of did that here as well, because these are Pokemon. They don't need, unless I'm going for a Pokken realistic style, I don't really need detailed, that detailed coloring. I'm not trying to ape Sugimori's art style in these videos. I'm kind of doing my own thing, but I'm trying to simplify my own thing so that it fits Pokemon better. Not that it fits Sugimori's Pokemon better, but that it fits Pokemon. these three fall into like I again, and I'm gonna say it a billion times in this video. I'm already sick of hearing me say it. But the Pokemon body style, the Pocket Monster body style, I think I'm gonna call it, is, as I described in the Blastoise video, fucking 2 years ago. It's that the egg shape with the stumpy arms, stumpy legs on the sides of the body, often with the big round head and whatever additional features. But I think I'd consider like the Pocket Monster body style to be a couple things too, like because that's the primary one. Like Rhydon is a perfect, like that's what a Pokemon looks like to me, is Rhydon. That's why I really like Duraludon from Sword and Shield, because it feels like it feels like like early 90s in Japan. If you were to like go visit and fucking get a little Gachapon, it would spit out a Duraludon. Like, he's just, something about him is just, it feels so totally appropriate. Like he could have been a Gen 1 Pokemon. He's a little bit too detailed maybe, even for like, because Gen 1 has a lot of detail, but there's that image that floats around of the difference between Gen 1 designs and like Gen 7 designs, where they have like Pidgey next to Pikipek, and they show how Pidgey has all of its individual feathers drawn and Pikipek has like just little blobs for feathers, and they cite that as being like the designs got so much more rounded off and simplified and babyfied later on, which I don't think is entirely true, because like when you look at Toucanon, like he's got individual feathers and stuff like that. Like I remember I might look at that more and come back with that in another video, but like I remember looking at that and being like, that's not entirely true. Like for the examples they give, it is kind of true, but like Pokemon designs are still Pokemon designs, like there's still a lot that are complicated, there's still a lot that are simple. And Duraludon is one of those where he is complicated. He's got a weird. I'm still, hopefully by the time I get to number 800 and whatever he is, I'll have figured out what exactly he is. But he's weird, but he's complicated in a way that Gen 1 wasn't really complicated. Gen 1's complexity is like, these are simple shapes. These are just like banana tree leaves, basically. But it's the little chips in them, like the little ripped out parts. Like the design itself is not that complicated. It's those little details all over it. Whereas something like in something like Golisopod, which I think there was an article or something, I didn't read it, but I saw a headline about the guy who designed Golisopod. He spent like an entire year of development time making Golisopod, where he just kept picking away at it until he had it perfect. And like, Christ, did he get it perfect, because that's probably one of the best Pokemon designs that exists. But Golisopod is complicated. There's nothing that complicated about Ivysaur. It's a frog with a flower on its back and some leaves. But somehow it's still a really unique and interesting and memorable design, just because of I don't know. It's something about it's that Pocket Monster personality. But yeah, sorry to finish that thought. Like so there's the Blastoise or Rhydon style Pokemon body type, but I think that the little box sprites from Gen 1, I think pretty much any one of those, like the little raccoon looking one and the one that they use for there's like the flower one, I guess, and the little Rhydon monster one. Any of those little box icons, even the tentacles like squid icon, I think those are all really those kind of fit the tone of Pokemon as well. And any one of those could fit as a Pokemon body type. But yes, Ivysaur is really good. I really like Ivysaur a lot. I think that Ivysaur is my favorite of the three. But I think that, and we're going to get into him now, but I think that Venusaur was my favorite to draw. Which is funny because Sugimori has said before that at some point Venusaur was his favorite starter Pokemon. I remember reading that or hearing that somewhere. that at least at some point it was his favorite starter Pokemon, but it was, or his favorite Gen 1 Pokemon or something like that. But it was his least favorite to draw because it's so complicated. And I didn't really realize that until I got into this. You can see me trying to pose it here, where like I wanted to do. So there's actually 2 other versions of this that got cut that I didn't even bother putting in here, where I wanted to draw it running, because if you've seen Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu or Eevee, you'll know that people got a little freaked out when they saw Venusaur following behind your trainer, because Venusaur runs like a frog, like it hops. Which is bizarre because every other time you see Venusaur in the series, it's like the heaviest fucking thing in the universe. Like back in the episode with all the secret Bulbasaur garden, and in the movie with Root and the clone Venusaur, like he looks like he weighs 1 billion tons, but then in the game he just hops around like a froggo, and a lot of people were very upset about that. Just upset as in like it made them uncomfortable that he was able to move that way. It's like how people don't realize how fast alligators are until they see an alligator out of the water. Like everyone's gangster till the alligator starts running at you, and then you realize like, oh, those motherfuckers are fast. They're stupid fast. But yeah, so I was trying to draw him running, but it kept looking like he was flying. Or like those pictures where like you freeze frame a dog as it's jumping into a pool or something and its face is all fucked up. That's what kept happening to me with this. So eventually I kind of settled on this pose where he's kind of, it's almost the solar beam like absorbing energy pose a little bit that like Bulbasaur would do sometimes. But I think ultimately it came out looking too close to the pose I did for Ivysaur. And I mean, this series is going to kind of be about the art a little bit, and you know, I haven't talked about. I'm kind of scatterbrained right now because it's, you know, first episode. I don't know what I'm doing exactly yet, but I haven't talked much about the actual drawing process here. But the drawing is kind of, it's relevant, you know. It's because, you know, I'm like leaning more and more towards art on this channel over time, because I can't keep up with the game releases and stuff, especially since I've had less money to actually buy video games. But, you know, like when Elden Ring comes out, I'm not going to jump on Elden Ring and try to make content for that, because VaatiVidya is going to handle that, you know, like all those other people are going to handle that. They got the video games. They're really good at video games. I'm at the point where I need to just play video games for me and then make content when I get to it. And so this is the kind of thing where I can just draw things over the course of a week and then slap them together and then do some post commentary and have a video. And I think that's kind of where I'm at in life. And I think I'm okay with that for now. So this is going to be a little more art focused, I guess. So if you have any questions, I guess, about anything I'm doing in the video, because I know when I watched Plague of Gripes' videos a while back, I haven't kept up with any of his newer stuff, but when I was watching him a lot for a little while, there was a lot of things where I didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Like I draw and I use the same program as him, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't understand what you're doing. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like when he's like the thing I've been doing the whole time where I'm like selecting off an area where that blue thing, where the whole thing turns blue and then the blue goes away, and then when I color it's only where the blue was. I didn't understand that because like I'm slow, I guess. So if you have any questions about any technique or anything that I don't explain in the video, feel free to ask and I'll do my best to explain, because I mean I just kind of do stuff mostly also. I'm not a very technique minded person. I'm not really like thinking about what I'm doing so much while I'm doing it. I just kind of know what feels right and stuff. But where the fuck was I before that? Talking about Venusaur. Yeah, it's weird. It's just funny because Sugimori didn't like. Oh yeah, so that was it. Sugimori didn't like drawing Venusaur as much because it was so complicated. I realized while drawing it how complicated it was, because yeah, it's the leaves and the flower and just how large he is also. And that's what it was. I was trying to find a pose, but he looks heavy as shit all the time, so he's running. Couldn't get the running going because it looked like he was flying, and then I settled in this pose. This pose is too close to the one I did for Ivysaur. See, I brought it full circle. I remembered. See, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and Silva's trying to sleep, and I'm yelling about Pokemon, but I remembered. I brought it all back around, you guys. And I just lost it again. Venusaur. I completely fucking lost it again. It is 4 o'clock in the morning as I'm recording this. But yeah, pose a little too similar to Ivysaur, posing Pokemon is always tough for me. Mewtwo's kind of easy because Mewtwo's shaped like a person. Raticate is really hard because Raticate doesn't have hands or legs. Or it doesn't have arms or legs. It just has hands and feet. You can tell a lot of Gen 1 designs were not necessarily designed for running or complex poses or animations or stuff like that. They were designed to stand there and have effects fly at each other. I was going to talk about Venusaur's actual body and stuff. So yeah, Venusaur is probably the most frog-like of the three. It has you can see it in its green sprite, which is like a horrific monstrosity, but you can tell it's very flat. And in the model viewers for the recent games, you can tell it's very flat in a weird way, where it's wide and it's large, but its actual body segment in the middle is flat like a frog. Its legs are very stumpy. It's got big old tree trunk feet, but its body's flat. And its head is pretty wide and flat as well. It has more pronounced cheekbones than the other two, which created some complications when I was trying to draw it in other poses as well, because its head is not just round with a beak like the other two are, like the little frog beak, you know what I mean? But it has pronounced cheekbones, and it's got a big ass mouth. It's got very specific teeth. It's got 2 on top and then 4 on bottom. It's got the 2 on top, 4 on bottom. And then it has the pink ears, so they're not like the chasms of darkness that are Ivysaur's ears, and it's not the no ears that Bulbasaur has. They're like proper animal ears, which are kind of cute actually. And I'm actually really happy with this perspective I got, because this was like the Ivysaur one. I was actually kind of going for Nidorino's kind of pose that he likes to do. Because that's what I think of when I think of Ivysaur. Is I think of it kind of stancing up, it trying to be intimidating. And so with Ivysaur with Venusaur, this one was more just I was going for that kind of solar beam charging kind of pose. But I really wanted to. What was important to me with drawing Venusaur was I really wanted to show off how massive it is. I wanted to get the sense of girth across. It needed to be girthy. And I think I got that. I think it looks big as shit. So I think I'm pretty happy with it. Its eyes are weird. Its eyes are they kind of look sleepy. That was another thing I always used to not like about Venusaur, was I didn't really like its eyes, and something about its whole face. I don't know. Something about its head kind of bothered me before. And I didn't like its little bumpies, it's the little splotches on the other ones, those little dinosaur marks, because I was trying to figure out what to call those little dark spots. But when we were looking at Gigantamax Charizard the other day, and then as I was trying to think of the words, I was thinking oh yeah, here's our kawaii Venusaur. There we go. Thanks, me. So embarrassing. I was trying to think of what to call those little spots, and I was about to say those dinosaur spots. And then Silva said it before I did. And I was like, yeah, you know what? That's correct. They are dinosaur spots. Those are the spots that dinosaurs have. So, but all of his little dinosaur markings turn into little warts because he's supposed to be a frog. Which, of course, was, again, it's not new information, but the idea was that, as a kid, you would collect little frogs and lizards and turtles as, pets. So it was something easily relatable to players that they could start the game with something that they might have collected like as a pet as a kid. So that's the idea behind the first 3 starters. And I think they did a good job. Maybe Charizard's a little weird, but we'll get to Charizard. But I think for a strange frog plant dinosaur creature with a corpse flower on its back, this is about as good as you could have done. It's a very good, unique design for the beginning of your series. I think worthy of being first 3 starters. I don't think anybody has anything like really against these Pokemon. I've never seen anybody like adamantly like dislike them. I think I was probably the harshest person about them at first, but they've really grown on me a lot. Here I was trying to. Here's one of those ones where I was thinking about adding more detail than I needed to, and so I backed it off a little. I added the yellow lighting on the highlights of Venusaur's highlights because I was just stealing. Like you can see me the whole time. I'm scrolling over to the art and then back to my art because I'm eyedropper tooling all the colors for everything. And so when I got to Venusaur, I was like, I just kind of wanted to. I wanted more saturation, and I didn't want to just steal all the colors. Like I want them to be consistent with the actual creature, and I'm not that great with colors yet because like I draw a decent amount and I color a decent amount, but I just never really try new things because I think I mentioned before in another video, and probably in the Dracovish video, but I don't really like practice. I kind of just draw. Because whenever I have time and motivation to draw, I just sit down and do it, and I don't really like. I learn what I learn as I'm going, but I don't sit there with like an empty sheet and just draw or color in little segments. Like you'll see artists on Twitter and stuff post their sheets of like their practice textures, where it'll be like a bunch of cubes that are like one's steel, one's wood, one's glass, or whatever. I don't do that shit because I don't have the time or patience most of the time. Which is weird because I'm a lot of people point out that I'm incredibly patient with stuff like this, but I guess I have my limits. But so I'm not very good with my colors, but I do what I can. Like earlier, you could see I started trying to do some kind of blue highlight thing on Bulbasaur's eyes, and that's something that I do for human eyes when I draw people. But it didn't really work out for them because, again, a little too complex. Like, doesn't need it. Is like, because, you can do all kinds of detail on whatever you want. I could have drawn what Venusaur would have looked like in Pokken, but it doesn't need that. I think Pokken's cool the way it did all of its realistic Pokemon. I think that might have been the only way to sell the game because I don't know. Like I feel like people. There's all those like marketing theories about people want to buy video games with realistic models and stuff. And you look at something like Sword and Shield, where Sword and Shield looks fantastic, like it really does, and it's an amazing game. And there's a whole subset of people on the internet who are like, no, it looks like a baby game. Why doesn't it look like Call of Duty, modern, whatever? Why doesn't it look like Skyrim? It should look like Skyrim, where not everything has to look like that. So I feel like Pokken, besides the fact that it was the Tekken team, and they felt that like the Pokemon should be more realistic to fit with that kind of visceral like combat style. It's also just what they know, so that's what they did. But when I'm drawing these Pokemon, like they don't have to be that complicated. They can just be Pokemon. So I think that's what I'm going to try to keep consistent throughout these. But here you can see Venusaur's little splotches. I gave a little heart-shaped one there for you guys. Venusaur's little splotches they are solid on regular Venusaur. They're open on the Brute Root clone from the movie. Those movie redesigns of the starters were like really, really fucking cool. And I remember because I hadn't seen the Mewtwo movie in quite a while. And when we went back and watched it, and I was like, what is that Venusaur's name? Brute Root? That's amazing. That's like the best nickname I've ever heard. And it's just for this random Venusaur in this movie. But it's very good. And here I'm using a clipping group to kind of shade the splotches separately, because they all kind of looked like they were just floating there at first, and they looked like I might as well have just made a texture and then put it like behind, like left a hole in the image and put the texture behind it, and not actually, like, it didn't look like it was part of the flower. So I tried to make it look like it was supposed to be there a little bit more. And then here I probably could have done more highlighting on the flower petals, but I hit the edges and I was like, that looks good, because the color was kind of already highlighting itself a little bit. And you saw there, this was a little bit ago, but I lightened up the little flower top, the yellow bit. I really hate using yellow for anything. I don't like shading yellow. I don't like highlighting yellow. So I just did what I could to make it look a little nicer, more saturated. But here is our original designs. I got all the details for the most part right, except for Venusaur's little splotches. But, you know, they're just kind of goofy looking because, again, there's a very specific style to Pokemon. And it's kind of like Sonic, where you can mess it up really easily just by, like, any little mishap in proportions is very noticeable, because people recognize, like, even if you don't know how to draw these things from memory, as soon as you see a Pokemon, you can tell what's wrong with it. Like in this one, like, I think the three of these came out pretty alright. Bulbasaur's head is a little weird, but I think that, like, that's how I think it would look if he looked up. Like, his little neck would be, because it's all one piece, you know. So I think Bulbasaur looks alright. I think Venusaur came out, like, really great, actually. I'm actually, like, very, very happy with Venusaur. I dropped the Vine Whip thing going on, but, you know, I thought it was a little much, I guess, and I just wasn't feeling it, so I dropped it. But I think Venusaur came out really good, and I think Ivysaur came out pretty good, but could have been better. But I think I just wasn't really sure what to do pose-wise with some of these. But hopefully I'll have a little more going on in the future. I just gotta... Hopefully if I draw not horribly ill at 3 o'clock in the morning, things will turn out a little bit better. But yeah, so I think I covered everything. I talked about my history with the Pokemon. With all three of them, pretty much. I guess I'll just throw in there that I think Mega Venusaur is really cool. I don't think I'm going to cover Megas. If I do, I'll probably maybe just do them all in one big shot at the end. Like, you know, at some point in the series, like, once we hit Gen 6 Pokemon or something, I'll just hit all the Megas or something. But Mega Venusaur is really cool. First line, good. So yeah, but I think I've said pretty much all I got to say about this. I'll remember other stuff, and then I'll maybe I'll make addendums in future videos. Like, whenever I'll go back and rewatch my things, and I'll take notes, and I'll add corrections at the end or something. I don't know. But if you guys have any suggestions or any questions, feel free to let me know while you can, before YouTube destroys itself and I lose all these videos that I'm going to spend the next forever of my life creating. These videos I'm going to try to keep them around 15-20 minutes long for the most part, but these first three are going to be a little bulky because, again, I'm trying to do all three of them just to, get them out of the way so that I don't have to, like I said, make a video about one while not talking about the other two, even though they're related. So for these ones where there's three evolutions, or even, like, I just realized, like, fucking Poliwhirl, like, Poliwag, Poliwhirl, Poliwrath, and Politoad, stuff where there's four, like, where there's branching paths like that might get a little complicated, although I might just leave Politoad for where he belongs, like his number in Gen 2. But you know what I mean, like, any evolution where there's, like, 3 or more stages to it, those videos are obviously going to be a little longer because they have to be. But for the most part, I am going to try to keep this a little bit shorter and more concise, because I know people don't want to watch, like, 6-hour things that I put up. So, and I don't ever. I go back and watch my shorter videos, but I don't often go, like, the Sonic Forces playthrough I go through every once in a while, because those videos are nice, 20 minutes long, and, start and stop, and they're edited and stuff like that, and it's really nice and it's easy to consume. But then, like, We did that. We did a 6-hour Kirby stream when Kirby came out. I haven't watched that since we did that. I haven't watched your Pokemon Stadium video. That video is really fun, and I like that video, but I haven't gone back and watched it because it's fucking 6 hours long, you know? So, I will try to keep these more concise. I will try to ramble less. But I think this will be fun. And I'm going to try to keep them coming. I'm going to do my best, because I finally finished Resident Evil, and now I have to finish the Let's Go playthrough that started a year and a half ago, even though the new Pokemon game came out. But I have to finish it because that's what my brain says I have to do. So I'm going to do my best to commit, and we're at least going to hit the first 151 before I give up. We're at least going to hit Mew. But thank you guys so much for watching, and look forward to future releases. And follow me on Twitter and shit. Thanks, you guys. See you later. Goodbye, good night, stay safe, stay hydrated. Be good, be kind, and all that good shit. Goodbye.